Okay, we are ready for a bit of an irregular day 8. Streaming later, and we're still not back home. Today will be the last day of this. Today is also going to be a short one, but the rule is we do not miss a day until we have made $1 million. So here we are. Let's update this to day 8. And let me just do a quick check. I think we should be okay here. Let's see. Give it a second to reset. Test, test, test. Alright, everything looks fine. We will trust the process. Get this out of the way here. Okay. So I'm just initializing my chat for today. Let me give it. So it's suggesting a structure. Let me see. Okay, so it basically figured out how it should just do this mapping based on everything we've done already in the other branch, in the schedule branch, states of action. So I needed to explain this to me more rather than me just try to figure. Yep, that's exactly right. So we're working on the states of action. Specifically, we're doing the template branch in this pass, so you figured that out correctly. I see here basically you've proposed a core shape and have essentially tried to map some sort of analogous version from schedules, which is pretty much the right idea. It shouldn't be too different. It's kind of recurring themes. It's probably not going to be exactly what you proposed here. Can you give me a nice full breakdown of this full structure that you proposed? I don't want to actually implement any of this yet. I just want to know what your first idea is, how we should map this over to templates, the innermost branching, and then what each of those are doing, and then I'll kind of read that over and then decide how we should go from there. So I don't know what this thing is talking about. I just wanted to give me the structure of the data table. That's literally it. Okay, here, so this. Okay, so intent makes sense. It could be an edit to a template. It could be, yeah, intent is definitely good. So let me get on my notepad here. I need to write this. Intent, for sure. I should probably go look in the plan file here and see what I had for. Where is states of action? Okay. Okay, so where is the full list here? Schedule. So what we need to be looking for is a schedule branch. here. So everything gets labeled evidence, grounding, partial confidence. Yeah, and now these are the branches here. So intent, we definitely want to keep. Um, yeah. And here we don't want the name of the template that's stored in the deliverable, but we do need to capture the intent that it gets mapped to a template. Okay, so template kind. Activity versus daily. Yeah, that 100% is needed. So it's actually done a pretty good job, at least so far, of figuring out, okay, this is how we did the schedule branch. This is what we should do for the template branch. So we also need to make sure apply all for the universal rules. Basically a label, evidence, grounding, partial confidence. And then intent, we want, what is this? So intent we want, that's saying, you know, like delete, insert, edit. So we need to go over the verbs of those. Activity, we don't want activity here. We just want the template kind. That's the analogous to activity. So here it's always activity or daily. And then here, what it's suggesting is there needs to be a reference, right, to what activity template it's getting mapped to. So in the event where one already exists, that's easy. In the event where one doesn't exist and one gets created, but because it should be a template, it would need to map whatever it gets created to. So this is good too. So map to existing or map to newly created. That's correct. So time start, no, we don't. We call it anchor. So the anchor, which is time. So the anchor is actually not the business of the template at all. The duration is. So duration is inhaled like dust. Not time start. That isn't template data. Or they just inhaled like cosmic dust. So duration we do care about. Match doesn't make a lot of sense. There's always a match if it's being input into here. Right, we don't need match. Doesn't really make sense. The template reference is the match. And then being link. So I'm thinking actually about start time, right? Like let's say there's a parse, because the being link basically just made me think about this. Because we do definitely need being links. So if there's a parse and they say do my usual gym at 5, right? Basically, it's not that the start time is a part of the template, but it does need to be known in order to get drawn into the schedule, right? So the question is, do we account for that here, or does that somehow? I think the way we handle it is it gets linked into um, the schedule side of the data, something like that. I'm seeing like a potential conflict right here, like so for being links, right? If they say like do my usual gym at 5, but I'm tired. So in the template data, right? There's a difference between this instance of the template and the persistent record of the template, right? So the being link and start time are important to know, but they're only relevant for this instance, right? Like it's not like you would assume the same start time and the same level of tiredness for every gym routine, right? But what you would assume for every gym routine is um, like how long it is, like for a template, right? Like if you wanted to insert a template in the future, like a 60-minute gym routine, you would be able to attach any start time or any being link to that, right? So I think we do capture this data here on the input side, but then when it gets transferred to the downstream template output, it doesn't get these associated start times and being links, right? But then what happens is in some way the system needs to know that when it's drawing this instance of the template to assign these being links and start times, right? Like there's some sort of transfer that has to happen from this input to the schedule draw that does maintain those while not persisting them to the template UI data. So these are good. These 6 are good. Match we don't need. Because that's just template reference. And if it's in here at all, it's already it's naturally a match, right? It's naturally a match. I need the full tree for schedule. Before I confirm any of this, can you give me the full tree for the schedule branch of states of action? Where does this exist in this document? Whatever, it has to be there somewhere because it found it, so. Might pull it up. Okay, here. So, intent. I am making the future of how humans will interact with robots to help operate their day-to-day life. Let me show you what I mean. Whoops. Let me pull this up for you. You still here? What's your name? I can't see. Spartacus. Still here, Spartacus? Yeah, okay, let me show you. Let me show you what we got going on. Hold on. I gotta. Yeah, sure, bro. Is that better? So I'm not at my usual like streaming location right now. I'm away. That's why I have this like really janky setup. Hold on, I'm just opening this for you. Okay, 2 more seconds. Okay, here. So this is the way that humans will interact with AI to help operate day-to-day lives. You can think of this as like basically like a life coach in your pocket that integrates across all domains of your life. So first thing that we're building out right now is the ability to interact with scheduling, which is obviously like a very fundamental part of capturing data to operate in day-to-day life, right? So the idea with the app is that everything is voice first. You don't have to type anything. You just talk to it and it understands you. So, for example, let's do that regular meeting with Spartacus today at let's do it at 2. So you can just talk and regular plain English, as I just did. And so here what it's done is it's inferred that it's supposed to be 2 p.m. instead of a.m. because people don't really have meetings at 2 a.m. But it does tell me that it made that inference, so I could swap it to a.m. if I wanted to, like that. Um, and then it's recognized that I didn't tell it how long I wanted the meeting to be. So it's probably gonna take us like 20 minutes. So now what it's gonna do is it's gonna block this in here for 20 minutes at 2 p.m. This is essentially the foundational layer of everything else, and what I'm working on right now is restructuring how that back end actually works, the data that goes behind what I just showed you, because I realized that the way I have it right now is not gonna work very well for how I want to have all the downstream systems work. But yeah, that's the idea. It's basically like it's a life coach in your pocket, like a life operating system in your pocket. That's why the app is called Life OS. So right now, like I said, I'm working on restructuring the back end a little bit, and I'm just building it all out right now. But yeah, I'm live literally every single day, and I'll be live every day till this makes me $1 million. So if you want to see the journey, you can follow, and then yeah. And if you're somebody who lives a life, you're probably gonna want to check the app out in the future because I think it might be pretty useful for people. What do you think about the idea? What's your take? Something you could see yourself using, something you think would be useful for people? What do you think? Appreciate the follow, brother. Okay, so let me get back to what I was doing here. So basically, I'm trying to map over my schedule states of action branch to my template states of action branch. And I have gone through some of them already, and I'm trying to figure out what else needs to get mapped over. So intent we already did. Activity we omitted because there is no exactly. Yeah. Some people need just, some help structuring and organizing their lives and stuff, right? Yeah, that's exactly right. And even for people that are already good at it, all it's going to do is make you better because there's an entire coaching layer that goes on top of all of this. Like over time, the system learns about you, right? Like, so say you schedule, certain days for a week in a row or whatever, and then over that week, it will collect, what did you actually do versus what you planned? How was your energy level? When did you actually fall asleep? All of that different stuff. Um, and then over time, it will be able to interpret that data and then make suggestions on improvements for you rather than just listening to whatever you say and doing whatever you say. It will actually help you make improvements. Am I making this in Xcode? No, no. I'm making it in Cursor. But when you do testing for these things, the best way to do it is just as a web app, and then I also have it on Expo Go, like for the phone version here, just to do quick testing. Cursor's not a language. Cursor is it's like an agentic IDE. Like it's basically VS Code with like LLMs inside of it that do the actual source code writing. That's okay, bro. You don't need to know how to code to do code nowadays. What you need to know is you need to know how to think. You need to you need to know how to build systems, and you need to understand how to communicate your ideas in very clear, plain English. And you need to understand a little bit about data structure, I would say, is very helpful. If you're able to understand what's going on behind the scenes in terms of just data structure and how that would map to the systems that you're trying to develop, that's very valuable. But you definitely don't need to know any coding language at all. Like, you don't even need to know how to do a print function. I promise you. You do not need to know it. You need to know how to think, you need to understand data, and you need to be able to communicate the systems involved in your software as it relates to the data. And that's basically it. Okay, so that's end time, we definitely do not need to pick up here, right? I'm trying to think because let's do the usual gym at 5, right? That's basically still an activity. But the question is it getting mapped? I think maybe a better approach to this is we just store um, all the exact same data inside of the schedule branch, and then it just either does or does not get linked to a template. I think that makes more sense because this is looking a little bit redundant. Right? Like a schedule entry is either a non-template or a template entry. Like template versus non-template is kind of a sub branch of scheduling. Yes, you're right. Yeah, prompts are everything. That's true. The best thing you can do is just keep trying. Practice, practice, practice. You'll learn what types of prompts do and don't do well. So I'm just kind of spitballing an idea here. I'm noticing that we might not actually need an entirely new branch for templates under state of action. It could be just nested within schedule, and basically then you create a link between whether or not one of those scheduled activities is a template. We could still segregate just to keep the data structure cleaner, like have a schedule sub-branch of state of action as well as a template sub-branch of state of action, and then create an interlink across those branches, something like that, or maybe it would be called an intralink in this case, I guess at the level of schedule and template. But the reason I'm mentioning this is because it's seeming a little bit redundant that we're capturing basically all the same data, regardless of whether it's a template or not. And the only difference between a non-template scheduled entry and a template scheduled entry is one needs to become persistent data in a downstream template process and the other does not. Right? So I think really all we need to do is figure out how to map schedule entries to templates, right? Unless the idea is we're going to also have some sort of ability to just generate templates by voice as well. In that case, it wouldn't have anything to do with schedule entry, and then in that case, we would want to actually have these all segregated. In that sense, it might be necessary. So I'm just kind of getting the ideas out, so let me know what you think about all that. So this is how I do my work. So I just talk. Should be in plan mode. Hopefully it's not writing. It's okay. So this is how I do my work. I don't type anything, I just talk. And like I said, if you know how to communicate well, then you get good results. Yeah, you definitely should not be typing. Typing's too slow. Also, it's not as natural. Like the thoughts won't flow as well when you're typing. It's just literally just too slow. I think it doesn't hurt to just split it. It doesn't. We don't lose anything by splitting it. Bot. Yep. Bot alert. Bot alert. Yeah, so I think we need to split it just because the idea is the user should be able to make templates independent of scheduling. And the seamlessness is that when they make schedules that should involve templates, it will do that automatically. So I think we do actually need to split it. Yes, I am playing RuneScape on 3 accounts simultaneously. That's right. One is an Iron Man, one is a hardcore Iron Man, and one is a regular account. Yeah, we're locked in over here. There's zero XP waste going on. Zero. I'm printing XP and money simultaneously. So variant B, let's see how it wants to do this. Mhm. Yeah, so it needs to be two separate. Yeah. Like the only concern is basically like the user says like my usual gym at 5, right? Is that gonna map to both a template and schedule drawing? Right? Like it would, right? Yeah, it would. It would. But so I think we actually need both. I think we need the template link, and we also need it to capture the both schedule and template because we need the persistent template data, and we also need the ability to draw the schedule with the template. I think we need both. So what it's suggesting is basically like only write to template data when it doesn't regard drawing a schedule. I don't like that. I think it has to just do both and you just have redundancy. And then we need to add a flag basically as to whether or not it's a template. And then create essentially a linkage to the actual downstream template that it corresponds to. So it's like schedule data, the raw input, template data, the raw input. What happens is if that template is a match to an existing template, then inside of schedule data, it would get that mapping to that template. If it's not, the template data gets created, then it gets mapped back to the one in schedule data. I think that's how we have to do it. Right? Because if we don't, how would we actually do the transfer from user input to saving the template data in the structured way we want? Right. So there needs to be a link basically at the user input level and then also at the other level. So let me write that. Right. It's I need something to draw on to do this efficiently. It's hard to keep track of all in your head. If I can do it. Hold on, let me think. So the input comes in, schedule data gets filled, and template data also gets filled because it recognizes that they said something like my usual routine. In the case where that template doesn't already exist, a downstream system gets that data created for the template. Then what happens is that data, through a linkage between the user and the user input capture, between the template and the scheduled activity, it knows how those link together, and then it applies that template link inside of the schedule data. And then in the case where it does already exist, meaning that the schedule gets input at the same time the template data gets input, goes and it checks and sees, okay, there's already a template for this, right? There's already a template, and then it does the mapping the exact same way at this point now. So it's the same thing in both cases, but in one the data gets created, and in the other one it just gets checked to see if it's there. Okay, so I think we're actually gonna need both of these ideas going on. I think we do need to split the streams, meaning that we need a branch for schedule and templates. Um, but we also need to have a link across, as well as we need to have a template link inside of schedule the schedule branch of states of action. So basically, here's what I'm thinking, right? The user gives an utterance saying something like usual gym at 5. So that would get captured in the schedule data with the activity of gym and then everything else that goes along with it. It also gets recorded in the template branch for that user's utterance in the input capture because of the word usual, right? And then whatever that necessary input capture data is what it is. But then the key idea is that within the schedule data, there is a map to that template within the same row, right? And the reason you need to have that link is because when there's multiple inputs, like do my usual gym at 5 and my usual walk at 7, it needs to know which of those template entries maps to which of those schedule activity entries. And then what happens, right? So let's go back to the simpler case where there's just one entry, meaning like just my usual gym at 5. So the data gets written to schedule, the data gets written to template within the user input capture, all in one row. And then a downstream process will transfer the template data or check if there's already mapped template data for that activity, meaning does this template already exist? And then what it will do is it will take that ID or whatever in some sort of way. It needs to map that actual template ID, not just the template mapping from within the user input capture row, the actual downstream template ID in some sense needs to then get linked back to the schedule input capture row. Because then when the downstream transfer process from the schedule input capture goes to the downstream schedule output UI drawing, essentially, there needs to be that linkage between this is the template that exists in this schedule on that day. Hopefully all of that is making sense. Let me know what you think. I think that makes sense. So basically what we need to do is we need to add a flag inside the schedule branch that basically links templates to activities. Then we also need schedule and templates are written together. Templates, yeah, no duplicate. So the question is, where does this flag go inside of um, schedule data? Is probably like same as a being link. Like you just add template link. Like literally, there's being link and then there's template link as well. So we're not actually building anything right now. We're just in a purely design phase. I'm not sure if you updated the plan file. I see you're writing to schedule a template link map right now. I think that's the case. I don't have the file open, so can you just give me a review of everything I just said and let me know that you understand and that we're aligned on everything? Just let me know what you're thinking and put it here in the chat. I'll go open the file that you're writing to right now as well, and I'll start reading that in the meantime. So it's not writing to North Star right now, which is fine. This is basically like having a branch off the main and then you do a merge later. So it's writing here. sort downstream media IDs. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Same ergonomics as being so it figured out exactly what I just said. Sort of a global intralinks array for the common case, yeah. Hello. It's so hot in here.
Yeah, I know, it's so hot.
How's work?
Get
So what's the plan? You're gonna shower. We're gonna shower after. You're gonna fold the laundry now, and then we're gonna make the steak in a little bit. It's actually so hot.
no, but Dunker's not though.
Huh?
Dunker's not hot. Still alive?
What's that?
Are you still alive?
Yeah. Wanna come be a superstar?
Huh?
Wanna come be a superstar?
No.
No.
Fine.
Mm. So we have the schedule branch. We have the templates branch. So template link on schedule entry. Shouldn't it just map like to the name? Like what's your native language? Yeah, you might have to speak like in English. I don't know. Dutch. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's probably gonna have to be English. For now, English is the dominant thing. I'm sure the day will come where you can speak in Dutch and it will understand very well. So I'm not exactly sure what this entry index is. Like template link is the right idea, same as the being link, but I don't know why it's indexing. Like it should be like the template entry gets a name, right? And then this template link just maps to that name. Index into state of action templates on the same caption row. So it's saying, okay, I see what it's doing. So it's doing exactly what I'm saying, but it's omitting the name thing here because the naming actually is like a downstream process. So I think this is actually better. It's basically saying this maps to the first template entry in this row. This maps to the second one. Like if the entry index was 1, that would be the second entry. So I'm gonna ask it if it thinks name mapping is better. So it's the same idea, but I could definitely see this being a problem because like it would have to keep track of. Actually, it'll probably work. LLMs are really smart. It'll probably work. But I'm just gonna bring it up. Like, I feel like it's just better to map by an explicit string. If you're trying to get it to rely on mapping by an entry index, I could see it potentially messing that up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, templates entry context. Yeah, so then this is something we figure out after. So let's see. So here's an example I gave, and where is the template section now? State of action. So here it has two entries in here. Intent, template, graph. Oh no, it's just one entry. So it has one entry here in templates, and then it's mapping it to the first entry in templates, which in this case works. So I see what it's doing. It did what I wanted it to do. Yeah, so basically the main discrepancy here is, do we do this index mapping or do we do by string? Yeah, so here again, it's pointing out exactly what I'm saying. So when there's two routines, it'll just index further down. Okay, let me read what it said here on the right. So when the schedule gets transferred, schedule data is what actually draws things. So there is a link to the templates, and then through that link, it should be able to establish the link between the input capture for the templates and the actual persistent data for the templates. So that link should exist. Process you need to have this match. So you don't need a table or configuration stuff. At this point, you owe me a lot. So let's not even talk about that. You owe me your life at this point. So on today's walkthrough schedule facets component set attach activity template version ID on the segment already. Okay, so this is the part that I'm not 100% sure on. So draw today's block on schedule facets when complete link is set. Metric team. Huh?
Nothing good. I'm just in the shower.
I'll be done pretty soon. Okay, so it's pretty much got this right here. The only thing I'm unsure of is this part here. Usual joint codes match. Don't maintain those. That's fine. So what it's saying is the link happens. The downstream link doesn't happen in the input capture row. It happens in like the persistent schedule and template tables. I think that's what it's saying. Okay, we're pretty much aligned here, so just a few things. First, I want to say that all the old design philosophy and terminology you're referencing is stale and might not map very well to this new design. For example, when you're talking about activity template version ID and source capture version ID, that's an old design philosophy that may or may not be relevant and may or may not map well to what we're doing now. So just keep that in mind that we're not forcing old ideas onto this new design. The second thing that I want to point out is I noticed that you're doing the mapping via indexing. So, for example, like if there's two modalities that get input in the schedule and in the template, like the usual gym routine and the usual walk routine, you're indexing as 0 and 1 and mapping via indexing like that. Um, that seems like it might be a little bit risky. I don't know. Do you think it will work okay? I was thinking maybe we could do some sort of explicit like string link, the same way we did linking with strings and the being links and the other interlinks, all that other stuff. I think indexing works as long as it actually does what we're telling it to do. I just could see it potentially making a mistake, like getting the ordering wrong, or I don't know, something like that. It probably will work. It's just one minor area of concern. And then the other thing that I do want to be really clear of is what's going on with the actual template linking. So there's two different layers here. Essentially, we have linkage at the input capture level, and then we have further downstream linkage at the deliverable level. So the way we establish the link on the input level is through the template link field that you just correctly defined that lives within the schedule branch of states of action. And then that's how it maps on the input layer, right? Via either indexing or if we change it to an explicit string link, either is fine, whichever one you think works. And then the real question is how do we actually maintain this linkage in the persistent downstream data, right? So basically we have a deliverable template data table and a deliverable schedule template data table, right? And basically what I think happens is when there's a raw user input and we write to these input capture tables, first there's an attempt of either writing or matching to the template, and then the schedule data gets attempted to be written, and then when that process happens, there's a linkage between that schedule entry on the persistent side of the schedule data with the persistent side of the template data. So I think there's a clear, there's like two distinct links that are going on here. There's a link between templates on the input side, and then there's a link between templates and schedules on the output side. And then, yes, we are going to omit global intralinks because we don't need them as of now. If it becomes relevant later, then we'll reconsider it. Holy fuck, that was a lot. that sound like gibberish? It means something, I swear. It will get all of that. You would be surprised. You would be surprised. It understands me very well at this point. It knows what's going on. Okay, good. You'd be surprised. Like, it's actually at a point now where it actually understands. Like, you'd be surprised. It has enough context now, like, across this document file here, this plan document, where I can, as long as I'm talking about what's going on in there, I can say as much as I want, and it figures it out. Like, pretty much perfectly every time. Template for system template store, what you build, match for templates, yes. Schedule deliver system calendar day, what you build, yes, correct. Deliverable link, how committed, schedule, block points, and committed. Exactly, yeah. Okay. Okay, perfect, perfect. So it understands that there's two types of links going on here. Index for string link. Index only works if ordering is always right, but it's brittle. So line of, yeah, exactly. So this is the issue I was saying. So before, what it wanted to do is make links between schedule inputs and template inputs via indexing. So like, where can I show this? I don't know where I wrote it before. Anyways, I know what's going on. So it's switching it from indexing to string. So the idea is it's giving it like a rough label, and then, yeah, okay, this is much better. Yeah, much better. Yeah, perfect. Two distinct linked layers. What they want on the calendar this turn. Yes. So we're familiar with that template pairing this for that. Yes, exactly. Layer B, template path. Yes, okay, exactly. What's that? It's better. A little bit better. Template path, create the template deliverable. Write schedule deliverable from schedule. When schedule block came from a paired template OP, the schedule deliverable block pulls for zero. Just that template deliverable. Exactly, yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Okay, yes, no global links, updated. Okay, we're perfectly aligned now. The next thing to hammer out is going to be what are the actual branches inside of template, inside of the template branch of states of action. Now that we've hammered all this out and realized that we do need this separate branch, it's okay if we have redundancy with um, with the schedule branch. That's fine. So as per what you requested earlier, the initial structure you provided, let me just go through that. So as for intent, we definitely need intent. That would basically be like, are they trying to draw a schedule? Are they trying to build a schedule? Are they trying to build a template only without it being in a schedule? Are they trying to move a schedule template? Are they trying to, all of the different possible intents? So yes, intent is definitely a structure that we need. The template kind as well. This one's simple. It's either activity or daily. And then the template reference. So basically the way it works is when there isn't a match already, it would write it into the downstream template persistent table and then just write the template reference immediately. So it's either it checks and it is a match and it writes the reference, or it checks that there isn't a match, writes the persistent data in the downstream template deliverable table, and then immediately writes the template reference that matches that new creation. Um, Duration is definitely something that we need. Um, Being link we already went over. We need anything that we already said should obviously be there. The being link is a part of it. Um, the reason we need being links is because actually, you know what? We don't need being links because the being link is already held in schedule, and we have a link between templates and the schedule. So that would be entirely unnecessary and redundant. And we don't actually want to persist um, being link context into templates because, for example, like say somebody says, do my usual gym at 5, but I'm tired. Um, that has nothing to do with it being a template, right? The next time the template's used, they may or may not be tired. So this being link does not get saved here. And the way we do maintain the being link is through the linkage to schedule. The same idea applies, I think, to all of this, the times, right? We don't care about start time. We don't care about end time. That's captured through the template link to the schedule. And then again, that's not something that's persistent in actual template data. All we care about in template data is basically the duration um, in terms of time. And I think that's pretty much it. If there's anything else you can think of that we might need for this template branch, let me know. It's like I have this whole like movie in my head. It's like I have these like a million like it's like I have like different characters in my show, and I have to write all of their like scripts and make them all work together. And it's basically like I'm a movie director for data. That's what it feels like.
We're gonna release you though.
Okay. Let's see. No, yeah. So intent, time, reference, duration. Yes, exactly. That's the only time signal we care about for templates. Classic. Yeah, at least one entry. Yeah, and we still want to have the grounding evidence. So one thing that I want to clarify to this is that they don't have to say save. It should basically just check, right? And then auto save if there isn't one already. So intent looks good. So for intent, you should also be able to change the duration, I think, rather than shift to anchor. Oh no, that has edit. So it maybe is too general. Yeah, let's make that explicitly change duration. And then we can handle other types of edits explicitly. Like what other edits would you do? Like change the title, whatever. So like title change. So I'm not gonna fully think through this right now, but this is something we need to think about later. Basically, what type of edits are allowed. That's something to think about after. Like, yes, yes. Yeah, exactly.
I'm young and I want to do what I can. So I'm not sure I go. You know, there's some people who do this family there for the past 4 years. For 4 years, I was right on for 4 years, and I love it. I love it so much, and I can't wait to I just realized that it's not time. Like, what do you mean? You totally it's so
So this one is important. Events. I guess I'm not sure what this means. Okay, so let's just go over all of that. So the first thing is that I need you to be clear that they do not have to explicitly say something like save this usual routine in order to create a template. Rather, it should just be anytime there is a hint that this might be something recurring, it should automatically check. And if there is no existing template, it should just create it. And in the case where it does exist, it should just create that match automatically. So it's not that the user needs to explicitly tell the system to save a template. It should just identify whether or not it should be a template and then either map to an existing template or to create a new one. After that, yeah, so we do need to be applying all of the rules for evidence and grounding everywhere it is necessary, the same way we did it in the schedule branch. Yeah, we always need to be having that. And then one thing about the intent, so for change duration, um, that's something we definitely want to have, and we shouldn't just be calling this edits. I think change duration is an explicit type of edit, and then we would later handle different types of edits separately. Like, for example, if they wanted to change the title of the template, that's just another type of edit. So we're not going to handle all of these cases right now. We'll think through this fully later. What edits are actually allowed. That's something we should add to the to-do that still needs to be done. Another minor note. So the label that gets written in the input capture row does not necessarily have to be the downstream output title. Obviously, the link needs to be maintained at the input capture level using that same string. But in downstream, if it is different, would that potentially break anything? So should we impose a rule that the title does need to be the same everywhere, meaning at the input capture level and then also at the downstream level? Finally, so for the things that you recommended about adding on, so match is not needed. It's always essentially a part of the workflow to check whether or not a template matches. So basically, there's always going to be a match regardless of whether or not the template exists or not. Just via the fact that something is being written to the template branch of states of action means that the workflow will either make a match or create a new template entry in the downstream template deliverable and then create that match. So match is definitely not needed. Events is very important. We do need to be able to capture multiple activities within an activity template, meaning like an activity template could be go to the gym, right? But go to the gym as a template could also include the 15-minute commute before, the 15-minute commute home after, the 20-minute shower routine after. So there can be multiple activities within one activity template. And the way that works is you basically just need the titles and durations of each of them, and then you just have an indexing order for how those build the activity template. Like index 0 would be shower, index 1 would be go to the gym, index 2 would be, commute, index 3 would be come home, whatever. So the correct order of indexing of the sub events within the activity template, and then basically that just gets anchored in at whatever time in the daily schedule. I'm not sure what you meant by daily conf. Just explain that a little bit. And then activate, deactivate is definitely something that is downstream. That's something that would live in the persistent data regarding the downstream templates. You done with your clothes?
Yeah, I just have to on the house.
Okay.
What?
I'll stop when you're done.
Look at the pajamas that my aunt bought too.
Oh, they're nice.
It's cute.
They suit you. Okay, good. 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 Template. Crap. Yeah, okay, good. Good. Good, 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 good. Yep, good. So how it's doing some events basically. So this is my power stance. So did this already exist? I just Mhm. I see. Daily composition is a good idea. So it's like the composition of different templates. All this is good. This is good. Okay, I think we're perfectly aligned on everything. I just want to make sure that we're understanding how events should be structured in the data correctly. Can you give me a full worked example? So I can see how the state of action schedule branch and the state of actions template branch would all align. Give me an example where the user does separate multiple template entries that are meant to be mapped to that schedule input, so I can see multiple modalities and how that's being handled in the data. And then I do see what you're saying about daily composition now. Like basically this is an idea for like um it's like a template of templates almost, like for example, say like they want to do like 3 different templates, they utter all at once, like do my morning routine, do my afternoon routine, and do this. Like they're not explicitly connected in time the same way that events are explicitly connected in time, like they happen back to back to back. In the daily composition example, it's more like my morning routine would go from say like 9 to 11, and then my afternoon routine would go from say like 5 to 6, and then whatever else. So that is a good idea. Um, I don't know if that really matters though. Like if we need to keep track of that sort of aggregate, I think we can just keep it granular and have them as separate entries into the template stream. Um, is that kind of what the idea was that you were getting at? I'm still not 100% sure what you mean by daily composition, so just take a look at what I said and let me know. It's actually so hot.
Are you done? No.
It's so hot.
Maybe we can fun.
Could be because I'm wearing this like long sleeve.
That's true.
Okay, let's see if I can move this. I can't see it properly. Here, put it here. Same thing. So the walk to the template link here gets you to a walk, the link gets you to a gym. Yeah, okay, let's do it. What's that?
Done.
I'll be done in a few minutes, okay? Need to gym. It's a very important video. Okay, yeah, that's exactly right. So this is one very important idea I just had here. So let's say the user says, do my usual gym at 5, right? And then it builds a template, and that's now stored as a template, right? Like say an hour gym routine. And then the follow-up user input is say commute to the gym, right? The system should basically be able to handle that. It should merge that input into the existing template that it just made for gym, right? And basically what that would mean is that the template would like the template entry in that new row where it utters about the commute to gym would have to basically say like order index 0 would be commute to gym, and then index 2 would be the actual template that already got created for going to gym, and then somehow downstream from that it would get mapped into the actual correct merge thing. So like the idea is basically that like the system should be able to build templates across user inputs as it realizes that things are actually potentially mapped together, because like long term we want to be able to have like multi events as a part of templates, because usually there are multiple events that make up templates, like going to the gym, right? Like anytime anyone goes to the gym they have to drive there, so it would make sense that that driving is a part of that template. But it's very unlikely that in one input initially the user is going to get it right, where they're just going to say, oh, I have to drive to the gym for 15 minutes and then go to the gym after. So we need to be able to account for the fact that these type of inputs that are actually connected to each other are very likely going to come via separate inputs, and the system needs to be able to glue those together into the templates across those inputs. Other than that, I think everything that you said looks right. Like you handled all these cases very well where everything did come in one user utterance, but we basically need to make sure that this is going to work when there's multiple utterances trying to accomplish the same thing. Yeah. So we basically got rid of the idea of daily composition. That doesn't. Okay, I'm gonna give it one more prompt now. I'm gonna tell it to summarize everything we did today and update and merge with the North Star file, and then I'm gonna wrap this up in the next 5 minutes. Yeah. So. Okay, we're in a good spot. We're gonna wrap up that cross utterance template merge in another workflow, and then it's definitely going to be related to how memory links work, so we might need to handle that at the same time. Can you give me a quick summary of everything that we did in this chat? Just give me a quick review of everything that we did, and then once I check that over, I want you to merge everything that we did in this new schedule template link model file and merge it into the LifeOS North Star file. It's important that we keep one canonical document for everything. Think of it like the main branch and then like a sub branch on GitHub kind of thing. So it's pretty much time to summarize, go over everything we did, and then merge with the main, which is analogous to LifeOS North Star data. I need to go roll around in snow. I need to go roll around in snow.
Snow.
So,
It's a shower, full shower.
Yeah, I'm literally gonna go after this. Yeah, that all looks good. I just want to make sure that you have actually updated the schedule branch to include the template link as per what we talked about today. Uh, just looking at your to-dos, so where you said lock the events section, the per event field names, I thought we had done that already. Um, just let me know why you have that here in the to-dos. I thought we had already done that. And then, yeah, the edit taxonomy we do still need to do. The deliverable layer we still do need to do. The memory links as well as the ability to do cross utterance merges for templates. And I guess that's how it would be for schedules as well through memory links. Yeah, basically, it's you need to have cross utterance merge across both scheduling and templates essentially. And then yeah, so just take all that in quick. Let me know why we had the lock events in the to do still, and then after we do this final read through, we can merge. I see what you're saying. Yeah, we did not explicitly write any sort of rules yet as to what the system will actually need to draw schedules. Basically, all we're doing right now is creating the structure for what we could potentially capture, and then later downstream processes will figure out, okay, what of this data do we actually need to do something executable with an app functionality? So that is something later to do. But in terms of the actual structure of events, I think we do have that locked in. Yeah, just to be clear, what we're working on right now is structure. We're not working on actual execution, downstream processes, and what sort of data is actually required to do something useful with it. We're just building the structure of the data that we could capture in order to set ourselves up for being able to do the later downstream things. But that being said, I think we're ready to do the merge now. I want you to make sure that we have the examples that were done here, the important ones. Especially need to make sure that we have the one that had the ordered events as they map to the different scheduled entries. Hopefully you know what I mean like by that, like the example where we did multiple template entries and they mapped to multiple schedule entries via template links, and then also they were correctly index ordered within the template branch. With that being said, keep a track of the remaining to-dos, and then also make a note of in the plan what step we are at and where we should carry on in the next workflow. I'm done now, by the way. It's finishing.